Okay, so it is midnight after the 6th, so we're on the 7th technically, but it's still the 6th for me. I was going to attempt to do a Rough Draft Diaries video vlog, because I'm doing the Rough Draft Challenge with Sarra Cannon, and she does her Rough Draft Diaries like daily, which is amazing. I probably can't do that. And I was going to attempt to do it thinking I could record videos on my phone and then upload a couple of videos and sort of edit them together using the YouTube app. And I can't do that. Apparently. I don't know. I'm an elder millennial. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm tired and I have a bit of a headache. So I think what I'll just do for this one is I'll just record my one video right now talking about my writing day. And then I'll see if I can do things different tomorrow. Mind you, doing it this way does mean less work for me because it means I don't have to edit videos together, and that is extra work. So maybe I just will do this brief little end of day diary about my writing. I don't know. I'm going to play it by ear. So I am working on a Legend and Nightfall inspired enemies to lovers romantasy. I haven't revealed the title on socials yet. I will this month. It is a lot of fun. I'm very much enjoying myself, and especially that the characters are telling me things about themselves and the story. So, like I discovered yesterday that the male main character is vampire adjacent. He's kind of like a Dhampir, like a half vampire. So vampires do exist in this world that I've created. They're called something else. I'm not going to try to pronounce the word that they're called because I don't know how to pronounce any of the words in this language that I've made up. I used Vulgar Lang, actually 2 languages. I made up 2 languages for this world, and I use Vulgar Lang to do it. And Vulgar Lang does everything with the International Phonetic Alphabet. And I just kind of muddled my way through doing it to create these 2 languages. I really don't know how to read the IPA and hear in my head, oh, it sounds like this. And I don't know if that's because of my auditory processing deficit or something else. I've always struggled with pronunciation of things, and hearing things and how I hear things is usually different from how other people hear them. And then you add on the fact that I spent my life living in 2 different countries, so I have a couple of different regional accents up in here. It's a mess. My head is a mess. I almost said my head is a mess. That's sure. Anyway, so I created a couple of languages for this world, and I've been going in and editing them as I need to. Vulgar Lang's pretty great, actually. I really recommend picking it up. It's only like $30 for the pro version, and that's a lifetime. Like, you get it for it's not a subscription or anything, and you can create languages with like 4,000 words and do edits and just, really just get into having a fantasy language without having to spend years actually creating a fantasy language from scratch. Yeah. So I did that because I wanted to have a couple of languages for this world. I wanted the world building to be rich, but I also did not want to dedicate like a decade of my life to creating 2 new fantasy languages. So, and I did a bunch of prep in September and October. September is when I got the idea for this story, and I got it while I was watching Legend with my husband. I had never seen Legend before. It's a 1985 fantasy film with a metric fuck ton of glitter in it. I swear, they bought out like 3 craft stores worth of glitter for this movie. It's amazing. And it has Tim Curry and Tom Cruise and some other actors I can't remember the names of right now. It's past midnight. I'm exhausted anyway. But Tim Curry plays the Lord of Darkness, and there's this whole good versus evil thing, and there's a princess named Lily, and she gets captured by the Lord of Darkness, and he's trying to make her his bride for some reason. It's not really clear in the narrative why, but whatever. And I was sitting there watching it with my husband, and I went, I kind of want Lily to get together with the Lord of Darkness. And just saying that just like a spark in my head spun this whole story. And I went, okay, well, I guess I'm writing that in November. Sure, why not? Anyway, while I was doing the world building, I was inspired by Isaac Asimov's Nightfall. Most people that I talk to have not heard of Nightfall. It is a novelette turned novel later on and also adapted into a film. I remember the film as being enjoyable, but my husband says I have terrible taste. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I really love bad movies. So it might be bad. It could be bad. It could be not great. But I really like the concept behind it. And I really like a lot of Asimov's concepts. So the concept is it's a planet where there are 6 suns, so they never know darkness. It's always perpetual daylight. And these scientists have been doing this research and going, oh, we have this history of, every several thousand years, society kind of just collapses, and we discovered it's because there's going to be a total eclipse that eclipses all the suns and casts us into darkness. And so we've discovered that because our people go crazy in the darkness because all they know is light, that means that's what happens is society collapses because people start setting fires in order to stave off the darkness, and they just burn the world to the ground. So what we're going to do is we've got this plan to save ourselves from this, and so they do this. They put this plan into motion, and then the story, what ends up happening is society collapses anyway because the scientists weren't prepared for the stars, and the stars drive them mad. So I love that concept. It is such a great one, and I decided that was going to inspire me in the world building. So I have created a world where one side is perpetually in light and the other side is perpetually in dark, and they're also at perpetual war. And so but they can't, there's a veil between them. They call it the veil, and you can't go through it at will. It has to open at the will of the dragon. There's dragons in this one. I've never written major dragon stuff in my fantasy before, and I was contemplating about how I'd never written major dragon stuff in my fantasy, and then I guess I'm writing dragon stuff in this fantasy now because now I have an idea for how to incorporate dragon stuff. So the dragon that protects the world, he kind of rests around it. It's said that it's his wings that form the veil, and they open up at his behest, basically. So you can't do it at will. He has to want to let you through. And so every so often the veil opens and a skirmish happens, and these skirmishes always end in a stalemate. There's never any victory because it's a perpetual, endless war with no victory on either side. Because it basically, the skirmishes just end when the veil starts to close again, and you have to retreat to your side or get trapped on the side that'll kill you. Because the creatures of darkness obviously can't exist in perpetual light, and the creatures of the light would go mad in the darkness. I mean, they wouldn't even be able to see. So my story has a FMC and a MMC, a female main character and a male main character, one from either side. And my female main character is the heir to the throne on the side of light, and she's also a warrior. And during a skirmish, she ends up getting trapped on the wrong side of the veil. So I have her dealing with trying to stave off insanity, as well as trying to stay safe from the many monsters on the side of the veil that want to eat her, or just murder without eating, whatever. So, and she gets rescued by the MMC, who is of the dark side of the veil, and I say rescued. He does rescue her. He does actually save her life, and then he kidnaps her. It's enemies to lovers. What are you gonna do? So yeah, that's my story. I've got this light versus dark, and I originally planned it to be a duology. And then when I was sitting down plotting it, and I plotted out the whole story instead of just sitting down going, I'm going to plot book one, I plotted out the whole story. And then I realized as I was plotting out this whole story, this duology, I'm like, oh wait, actually I need another book. So it's going to be a trilogy. and I have no idea what the title is for book 3. I've got the titles for books 1 and 2, and I don't have a title for book 3 yet, but it'll come to me. It will. I the closer I get to writing it, it'll coalesce in my head. So, because I already have titles for books 1 and 2. So once you've got the first title in a series, it kind of becomes easier to name the following books in a series, in my experience, because you've got to sort of like, we're going in this sort of pattern, and then your brain goes, oh yeah, that pattern. I can do pattern. It's just coming up with the initial thing that, who knows? So yeah, so that's my story, and I'm really excited about it. And it's my first official romantasy, which is like a whole other thing. I have written epic fantasy with romantic subplots. I have written a portal fantasy with romantic subplots, and I have written spicy, steamy science fantasy romance where the plot is the romance and the science fantasy is sort of the background. Though I will say in my science fantasy series, there is actually a meta plot going on in the background that's like beyond just the romance plot of each individual book. So it's sort of it's a series of standalones, but it's strongly suggested you read it in order. Those are not out yet, by the way, in case you're going and looking for them. They don't exist yet. I'm still in the revision and editing process of the first few. So, but I have read tons of fantasy romance and tons of romantic fantasy, but I have not actually written a romantasy before. I might have read romantasy, but I don't know if I've never actually sought out like something labeled as romantasy to read. I probably just accidentally read it. But there is a lot of like contention over what the definition of a romantasy is. And so I kind of did hesitate in calling this a romantasy because, like, what's the definition? Who knows? But actually there's one thing that I keep seeing being sort of is almost sort of settled upon as part of the definition, which is that the romance and the fantasy have equal stakes as plots. It's not, a lot of times in fantasy romance, you have the romance is the main plot, which it should, because romance is the second genre listed, so fantasy is the adjective describing it, right? So romance is the main plot, but the fantasy just kind of is like set dressing, right? It's not, there's no fantasy plot. It's just, this is the setting, right? And that happens a lot in sci-fi romance too, right? It's just the setting. There's no actual sci-fi plot. It's just the setting. That's fine. That's probably what you're looking for, really. You're looking for a romance story that happens to be set in this kind of setting, right? Sure. But for romantasy, I see that the definition often comes out as being that each fantasy and romance plot, they each have equal weight. They're like 50-50. And that is what I'm doing with this one. There is a romance plot and there is a fantasy plot, and they are intertwined and you cannot break them apart. They are 50-50. They each share equal screen time. So that is why I've gone with a romantasy label, even though there is still a lot of like murkiness around what it means. And I'm sure there will be someone out there who reads my book and goes, this is not romantasy. I'm sorry. I'm just going with what seems to fit. And it really does feel to me that romantasy fits what I'm writing for this. So I do plan for there to be a happily ever after, but I am a discovery writer, so we will see what happens. But so I'm not guaranteeing it at this point, but I do plan for it. It is in the plot for there to be an HEA. So I like HEAs. I do write tragic love stories. They happen. If you've read Chosen of Kore, formerly published under the name Bellica and currently being updated in prep for relaunch next year, then you know that I like tragic love stories, and I'm really sorry about that. For any shippers of certain relationships in my books, I do apologize. But I do also try to let you know if my book has one main couple and if the HEA is guaranteed or not. So if it's a book like Chosen of Kore, I'll say HEAs not guaranteed, which means you don't know of any of the different pairings that are in there, who's going to have a happy ending and who's not. But if I say HEA guaranteed, it means, yeah, no, I've written it as a romance. You can rest easy and know. So whenever I know about this one, I'll be able to say whether or not yes, it is a romance or not. So, and I realize that for some people that seems like a spoiler, and I get it. I get not wanting to be spoiled. But I also know that when you need like something that gives you a feel good, you want predictability. It's a comfort watch. And this is why I like reading romance, because I know that each romance that I read is going to end in a happily ever after. That's like a known thing, because it is like the staple of the genre. It cannot be a romance if it doesn't have an HEA. And that is very useful, because it means that I can actually take a chance on like a new story when I need a comfort read, but still know that it's not gonna, just punch me in the face. Hopefully. Anyway. So yeah, so that's day 6. I've rambled for 15 minutes about a whole bunch of stuff, my book and Romantasy and the what is the definition? Who knows? About it. And yeah, I'm excited. It's now 1:45 in the morning, so I'm gonna get ready for bed and do some of my knitting and then go to sleep. And hopefully tomorrow I'll have another good day of writing. Tomorrow I think I'm gonna aim for 1,500 instead of 3,000. Sorry about that. It is a half day technically for me tomorrow, so 1,500 is what my aim will be. But I guess we'll see where the muse takes me and how my shoulder and elbow are doing. So I have a rotator cuff thingy, and my left elbow has been complaining for no fucking reason lately. So getting old, not for sissies. Except I am a sissy, so I guess I'm screwed. Anyway, I'll maybe see you tomorrow. I guess we'll see how this goes. Okay, good night.